so glorious to be here with you on this rainy Monday Melbourne morning, but I'm feeling all the good feelings. I have spent the morning interviewing women who are considering the third level in 2021, and yeah, I have to tell you, I'm buzzing. So halfway through that process, I thought, what do I want to do now? I want to hang out with you guys, and I want to share some intel that I've shared before, but in a different way, and I'm really excited about sharing it with you in a new way, because I think part of my job, part of my role as the teacher archetype is so strong in me, is finding ways to communicate ideas that are going to land differently or new, or in a novel way, using the true sense of that, like, so that our brains can really kind of engage with information we might have heard before, but to take it on in a new kind of paradigm, a new paradigm of possibility. So that's what I'm going to do this morning with you, and spend a little bit of time to unpack this idea of a really turned on intuition. And I'm using that a little bit provocatively because it is really accurate, I believe, to compare that turn on state that we experience through arousal in our physical bodies with the conditions that we are wanting to be experiencing when we are in a turned on intuitive state. And what do I mean by that? Unpack that for us, Ricky. So what I mean is that the idea of a turned on intuition, like a turned on body, is one in which there is a flow state. The the juices are flowing, let's say. So that idea of there's not resistance, there isn't struggle, it's not effortful, but your intuitive intelligence is flowing easily and gracefully, and there's a sense of being in an intimacy with that intuition. It's not a struggle to feel it. It doesn't feel far away or in another room. There's this lovely deep sense of intimate connection with that wild intuitive knowing. And so that's why I sort of draw that parallel with that turned on state. It isn't about arousal in the sense of just everything's like blowing my mind, but in the sense of that really deep intimacy and that real sense of flow in the body. And when we're in that state, we know we can trust our intuition, because we're not forcing, we're not reaching, we're not grasping, we're not trying to make our intuition do something or perform when it's not ready, right? So I've often spoken about intuition as being instant. Let me know if the image is working, because I can see there's a little bit of delay on my end. So if it's a bit staggery, let me know, and I will swap my internet over. So yeah, we're not in this sort of forcing state, and we can actually live in this state of flow and ease and openness, and our intuition just moves into us, rather than us having to try to force it into being, or feeling like that there's this, oh my God, is this my intuition? Am I actually just really stressed and anxious, and this heightened feeling is not really turned on intuition, but this desire to resolve a problem. I just want to fix this. I just want to know what I'm supposed to do. So I'm going to reach for the pendulum or the oracle cards, and I'm just going to try and manufacture an intuitive hit. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. You can't fake arousal. You can't fake a turned on intuition. And so what I want to talk about then is, well, how do we live in that state of turned on intuition? What is it that allows us to be really able to live in a flow state where that communication with our intuitive intelligence is there all of the time, or at the right time? So intuition, I was saying this before, is instant, but it's not immediate. So we may want the answer, whatever it is that we're seeking to know, in the moment that we have the question, but it may not be the right time. But when that answer is timely, the information will be instant. And that's a really important point of difference. It's like letting yourself be in that state where you are trusting God, you're trusting the divine timing, you're trusting that when that information is required, it will be there. And that's a really, really big part of it. So what we know then about living in a turned on intuitive state is that we must be present. And that presence requires an embodiment, right? So if we are not devoting ourselves to being fully embodied and fully present to our soul nature, our physical nature, our emotional nature, then we're absent. And if we're absent to ourselves, usually that's a fear paradigm. That what are the things that help us check out and be absent? Addiction, all of the ways that we create emotional chaos and distraction and TV and like all of the things that help us, if we see it as helping, to avoid our reality for whatever reason. Maybe we feel overwhelmed, exhausted, bored, depressed, despairing, grieving, angry, whatever it is. So we're not present, we're not embodied, we're not here in order to receive our intuition. Then we're like, I need to know the next steps of my life because we're so miserable. But we've avoided our reality. We've disembodied, we've dissociated, we've stepped away from our capacity to know, because your biology is what primes you. It's the technology that primes you to receive your intuitive intelligence. So there's no access to intuition if we are not present, if we're not embodied, if we're not here, if we're not feeling that sense of intimate connection to our own being. And I mean our soul, I mean our emotions, I mean our, all of the aspects of who we are, including our physical body. That embodiment is bigger than the physical, but it must include the physical. And it must include a willingness to get over those feelings of discomfort, which is your fear talking to you, that we try to ignore because we're terrified of feeling those feelings, and instead go towards them. And I've spoken a lot about fear. And in fact, I'm writing book number 2 right now, and that chapter on fear is huge, which I'm excited about because I've said a lot of things about it. And I won't go too much into that, but we can be pretty much guaranteed if we're not present and we're not embodied and we're not feeling confident about our intuition, it's very much because of those unmet subconscious fear impulses. And we need strategies, right? We need to have ways that support us to feel safe, to be present. We need a new conversation around that. So that we're not avoiding ourselves or our deep, wild knowing. And we can also avoid our deep, wild knowing because it wouldn't be convenient. It wouldn't be convenient to leave the marriage or quit the job or move countries or, whatever it is that your intuition might be guiding you to do that would take you out of your comfort zone. So we're like, if I just don't feel, then I'm not going to be in danger of having to show up to my intuitive knowing. And of course, what that does is just delays the inevitable, and the signs from our intuitive intelligence, aka the cosmos, just get louder and often much more intense. And then we'll often find our life has to go into chaos in order for us to pay attention. Let's avoid that, right? So what we do as part of our training of our intuitive guides, and what we're deepening into in 2021, which is so exciting, and this is being led by Alicia Halpin, our new teaching and learning coordinator, is really investing in that integration, that embodiment phase of the training. So we don't want you just to learn a whole bunch of things. It is a clinical praxis training, but we want you to be able to go deeper into your own integration of your mystic. Now, this is one of the central archetypes of the 3rd level, but it's for good reason that we call this embodiment, that intuitive intelligence embodiment is really the aspect of the mystic. To go within, to become embodied, is really how Alicia would describe it, is indwelling, and to become intimate with self. And that is how we increase our intuitive intelligence, our intuition. We must be indwelling, and that intimacy with self is how we increase our intimacy with our intuition, because they are one and the same. And that's how we increase the intimacy with that communion with the infinite intelligence all around us, which is what we learn to do in the 3rd level and in all the training, is that non-local intuition. So without embodiment, you see, you're not present. If you're not present, you are not able to receive. And so what we are doing from 2021 is having 6 week-long online retreats, which we call the Mystics Cave, where our students will step away from the cerebral learning and step into the deep embodiment, the indwelling of integrating and becoming one with what it is that they're learning. And that integration time is vital. But we're not stopping there. We're also making this training available now to our graduate priestesses as advanced practitioner training, so that they can use these tools of intuitive intelligence embodiment with their clients, which is incredibly exciting. But before all of that happens, we're dropping a brand new free live training with Alicia that's running from the 12th to the 16th. This is for everyone. It doesn't matter if the third level is on your radar or not, or if you're a graduate or not. These 5 days will be deeply transformative if you want to increase your intuitive intelligence and expand your consciousness. Now, to say that is really to say the same thing, because if you've studied with me or if you've spent any time with me, you'll know that we cannot increase our intuition without expanding into our infinite nature, our consciousness. And it's a really amazing thing for me when I see that there is a disconnect between intuition and that consciousness raising and that holiness raising and becoming more godlike. Because to me, I literally don't know why you'd want to increase your intuition if you weren't yearning to increase your connection to God, that intimacy with the infinite. And in fact, I really consider intuition to be a byproduct, just a lovely little side effect of going towards our infinite nature. So that is coming up next week. I will drop the link in the comments so that you can sign up. This is completely free, standalone 5-day training with Alicia. She's making so much time available. It's so generous of her, but just really, really vital, because we see what happens when we take on knowledge, or we have all of this kind of, cerebral or even kind of metaphysical relationship with this stuff, but we don't anchor it. As Megan Watterson says, you have to descend to ascend. There must be indwelling. There must be coming into an anchoring of our divine nature and our holy and our human nature, which is anthropos. It is not in isolation. These things must come together, and indwelling through intuitive intelligence embodiment is how we make that happen. So as a third level priestess, you begin to experience this in these 6 week-long online retreats. And now we have this incredible opportunity for our graduates to become advanced practitioners in intuitive intelligence embodiment to increase their power to serve their clients. So it's a good day. I'm having a very good Monday here in Melbourne, despite the restrictions and the rain. And I'm feeling really excited about deepening into that understanding of how we must be able to sit in that embodied state, to have that deep intimacy with our intuitive knowing, which is what we are actually all yearning, whether we know it or not. So that is all I wanted to share with you today. If I was going to invite you to do anything to increase that embodied presence, that intimacy, that turned on intuition today, it would be to make space for stillness, silence, and solitude, even if it's 20 minutes. And even if it's just sitting alone on your bed and just being present, no noise, no music, no meditations, no one around you, lock the door if you need to, just not moving, not doing, it's just coming into a still point. That is so hard for us to give ourselves permission to do. Not reading a book, not trying to improve ourselves, not trying to distract ourselves, but just being present to our own selves and to feel whatever rises there. And it might be uncomfortable as hell, and that is often the reason we never have stillness, silence, and solitude. But it's my invitation to you today, if you want to optimize your intuition, start there. Second point, come and join our brand new free live training with Alicia Halpern starting next Monday, the 12th of October. It'll be 30 minutes a day. There's a dedicated Facebook group. She's going to be dropping so much value on you. And of course, there are pathways out of this free training, but this is a standalone training, and it will be just so glorious for everyone to get to bathe in that deep wisdom of Alicia and to really experience what it feels like to have a turned on intuition. It feels really good. I like living in that way. Any questions, let me know. I will share the link to register. Please share this around. It's something I want the whole world to have right now. This is the time where, in these last 6 months or so, with this pandemic as a background to our lives, that avoiding reality has been a big thing for a lot of us, including myself. It's been scary as hell sometimes, or just boring as hell to be fully embodied, or we felt restricted in our bodies, or we've been afraid to breathe, or if you're in Melbourne or other places where masks are mandatory, or you're wearing a mask voluntarily, everything about being in this physical body has been a challenge. And it may be that you have unconsciously kind of excavated yourself out of your physicality. You may have stepped away from your own embodiment unintentionally. I know that's certainly been true for me, and I've really been working with these tools that Alicia is going to share with us to bring myself back into a fully present state of being, and to stop avoiding, because there is no power in that. And it is the time, I think, for most of us to check in with ourselves around, okay, how present am I? How embodied am I? And what do I need? We'll be using breath, movement, and these indwelling mystical practices to really bring you home to yourself and to increase your intuitive intelligence. So I'd love for you to join us beginning next Monday. All my love. Let's hang out again soon.